All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Score, still on vacation, but today we got to talk about all of the Washington prospect visits that have either already happened or are scheduled to happen, all of them that we know so far. They're allowed a maximum of 30 visits every offseason with different prospects, whether it's virtually, bringing them all the way to Ashburn, all of that type of stuff. And so far, we're at like 16. So we're going to dive into all of those players and how likely we are to draft any of those players. Are they team needs? And what is the significance of these visits? Do these visits automatically mean that we're more interested in these guys than the guys that don't visit? Also, it's been reported that the Commanders met with QB from Florida, Anthony Richardson, at the Combine. How significant is that? Is there a chance that we would take him at 16? And again, we have a lot of top-notch visits we got to talk about. Quarterback Hendon from Tennessee. Cornerback Joey Porter from Penn State, Alabama safety Brian Brandt, offensive lineman Osiris Torrance, and a lot more as well. Again, there's like 16 of them. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Again, I'm not home right now, so we can't do the Sunday live streams yet. But stay tuned because I will bring them back as soon as I get back home. And of course, man, make sure you stay tuned because as soon as I get back home, it's straight draft. I mean, of course, some free agency stuff may happen. I want to do like a cap space update video for y'all, but it's straight draft. Film sessions for draft prospects that we may draft that I'm interested in. More mock drafts. I'm probably doing the mock draft the day I get back home, all that type of stuff. So stay tuned and let's get it. All right, so the first thing we can talk about is the fact that the Commanders have a top 30 scheduled visit with Tennessee quarterback Hendon. Again, you're only allowed 30 visits. That's why it's called a top 30 visit. 30 maximum out of the entire offseason, out of every draft prospect that you're interested in, you're limited to 30, and Hendon is one of them. And now, past few days, really like the last week, he's been receiving a lot of first-round buzz. I mean, he was a first-round caliber player before the torn ACL, really late into the season. So you already know it's a situation where he probably won't even be able to contribute, even if a team were to draft him in this draft and expect him to play quarterback for them this season, which I highly doubt will happen anyway. I'm pretty sure he's going to be brought in as like a developmental guy with a relatively high floor, and then the fact that he's as old as he is, it makes it a little bit weirder as far as potential as well and being a backup. The type of guy you usually, at an age like that, you bring him in to start for you. But even if you wanted to, he's probably not going to be ready until like November. I mean, he hasn't even been able to even participate at pro days and things like that. I'm assuming that since we're bringing him in for a visit, it's just a face-to-face thing, just talking things over, maybe seeing him make a couple of throws, but he can't do much. He can't run. He can't really do anything that much. Again, even at his Tennessee pro day, he threw the ball around a little bit before the pro day started, but once the pro day commenced, Darnell Wright, all of those receivers were out there doing things, but he was just chilling on the sideline watching, cheering everybody on. So that's really interesting that we're bringing him in for a visit. And again, remember, he was a Heisman candidate before he tore his ACL, but at the same time, he's like a weird blend of like, he's older, so you expect him to have a certain floor, and he does, because his mechanics, his ability to read the field is pretty advanced for like a quarterback coming out of the draft. He has a high floor in that way, but at the same time, he's coming from a very gimmicky Tennessee offense. I believe Tennessee is probably the only team in the whole SEC East that runs that super gimmicky pitch and stick offense, like the furthest away from a pro style offense. So it's like really weird where he has this floor because of his mechanics, but then you also have to worry about there's some development issues as far as him learning how to run a pro style offense. It's just all kinds of weird mixtures there. He's older for his age, but at the same time, he kind of came out of nowhere and shocked people. So he's kind of a walking anomaly, and it's going to be really interesting to see where he goes in this draft, because some people feel like he can make it to the third, and again, lately, some people feel like he's not making it out of the first. So somebody's going to want to give him that fifth round contract, especially since he's not coming from a pro style offense. You trade back up, or if you're one of those teams already in the late first round, you take him then, and now you have that extra year, that fifth year option, to where if it does take him some time to learn how to play quarterback at the NFL level and be successful, be consistent and all of that, make all of the right decisions, make all of the right play calls, all of that type of stuff, then that extra year helps a lot, and you're not worried about how you're going to pay him a year sooner than you should be. And just to let you know, John Com reported that that visit should happen later this month, as in April. So we'll see, but I mean, the draft is April 27th, so it can't be that much later, but it's definitely not yet. Also, of course, Rivera has said several times they are not ruling out taking a quarterback at 16. So not only are they bringing in Hendon for a top 30 visit, not only have they shown interest in other quarterbacks like Jake Haener from Fresno State with a Senior Bowl informal meeting, Dorian Thompson Thompson Robinson, UCLA, one of the most underrated quarterbacks in this entire draft, that may go way sooner than people expect. Remember, Chris Sims had him as his, I believe, 5th rated quarterback in this entire draft, even above Will Levis. We met with him formally at the Combine. Malik Cunningham from Louisville, met with him informally at the Senior Bowl. Tanner Morgan, East-West Shrine Bowl, Minnesota. And now it's being reported through John Keim again that they did meet with Anthony Richardson at the Combine. He is not scheduled for a visit so far, but these visits are for a variety of reasons. Can be to learn more medically, sometimes get a good feel on a guy, so no need to visit. So he's basically saying that Anthony Richardson, maybe they just wanted to see where he was medically, if he's, and mentally as well. I mean, I heard Anthony Richardson was killing the interviews at the Combine, one of the best interviewers there. But that could also explain why we're possibly bringing Hendon Hooker in for a visit to look at him with our doctors, our trainers, to see where he is medically, to know how soon he could possibly end up being ready to play if we need him to, if we took him. A lot of this stuff is just if we took him, what would happen this and there. So it's just a lot of due diligence stuff. Honestly, wouldn't read too much into it, but I mean, with us meeting with all of these quarterbacks and bringing them in for visits and all of these things, do not be super shocked if we take one to 16. I would be very surprised still, but don't act like it didn't come out of absolutely nowhere. And remember, with Anthony Richardson, we met with him formally at the Combine, as we just heard, and we went to his pro day. When I reported on the pro days earlier, a few days ago, a couple of weeks ago, whatever it was, like last week or something, and I was talking about the fact that they went to Florida's pro day, because there were no reports that we were interested in him in any other way other than the pro day. I was like, maybe they went to the pro day and maybe they did take some time to look at Anthony Richardson, but they probably primarily went for other people. Like maybe his teammate, interior offensive lineman Osiris Torrance, who we're going to talk about a little bit later. But now that it's being reported that we actually did meet with them at the Combine formal meeting, and those are limited as well. You can't just interview every player at the Combine. Now it seems like when we did go to that pro day again, which was after the Combine, and we already formally met with Anthony Richardson, maybe they did go to that pro day to look at him. I'm not necessarily saying that that was the main reason they went to Florida's pro day, but he probably is one of the reasons. At first, it just kind of looked like, oh, okay, Anthony Richardson just happened to be there, and they were like, well, we might as well look at him while he's throwing because we're already here, but we're mainly here for other guys. But now it sounds like they probably went for him at the very least part of it, maybe not the main part of it though. And now moving on to a lot of other top players that are coming in for visits. We're going to talk about all of the players that came in for visits, but I want to talk about the top players and especially like who are some of the other teams that they're visiting. So you have Joey Porter. He visited with the Raiders yesterday, and he visited with us on Monday a couple of days ago, and then he has upcoming visits with the Ravens, the Panthers, the Saints, and the Eagles. So we got to watch out for all of those teams as far as Joey Porter goes. And don't forget, we had a formal meeting with him at the Combine. He's coming in for a visit, and we went to Penn State's pro day, and he was probably the main reason that we went to that pro day. So those are 3 references of interest for Joey Porter to show that the Commanders actually may really consider taking him at 16th overall. Then John Keim recently tweeted that Brian Branch is coming in for a visit as well. And so we're bringing him in for a private visit, but we also went to Alabama's pro day. So those are 2 reference points of interest for Brian Branch right there. And you never know, man. You could argue he's the best slot corner in this draft, and then he's also a safety. Didn't do too well at the Combine, but he made up for it a little bit at his pro day. And if you want to replace Bobby McCain, that's literally your guy. He's literally just better Bobby McCain. He's better in the slot than Bobby McCain, and you can project him to potentially be better as a safety than Bobby McCain. So with us losing Bobby McCain, and a lot of people are acting like it's not like that big of a loss, but there's a reason he plays so many snaps. Even with Cameron Curl and Derek Forrest healthy, Benjamin St. Juste healthy, Kendall Fuller healthy, Bobby McCain was still out there quite a bit in the rotation. So it's not like we lose Bobby McCain and nothing changes. So I could see why they would want to replace Bobby McCain with basically a better Bobby McCain. So Brian Branch is a real person of interest there. Maybe you can trade back and still end up getting him. And again, like I've said in several videos, I think we're quite likely to trade back in this draft. It just makes too much sense in so many different ways. But we'll see, unless a top guy falls to us, like again, like a Christian Gonzalez or a Devon Witherspoon or one of like their favorite tackles maybe, or maybe they are really interested in one of these quarterbacks like Anthony Richardson or something like that. If one of those guys falls, then maybe they stay at 16 and take that guy. But I'm pretty sure we're going to trade back, because even if Anthony Richardson, like I said in my previous video, even if Anthony Richardson makes it to 16, that's just going to more than likely end up being some really good trade bait for us to trade back. If Anthony Richardson is available at 16, we can get more in return for a trade back than if he wasn't. So the Commanders they may celebrate with Anthony Richardson being there at 16 for a completely different reason than what people think. Instead of being like, oh, this is our chance to get him, they're going to be like, oh, man, the price to trade up just went up. So don't be surprised at that. So I think it is very likely that we're going to end up trading back anyway, but we'll see. Then you have Florida offensive lineman Osiris Torrance, Anthony Richardson's teammate. And again, earlier when I first reported the pro day stuff, I thought that was like the main reason they went. And I still feel like we're more likely to draft him than Anthony Richardson, so it could be. He's visiting with the Steelers today and then the Commanders tomorrow, as in Thursday. And a lot of people is starting to grow that he may end up going in the first round, and it could make sense to get him at 16 or 17 because his draft buzz is growing that much. On the Draft Network's big board, they still have him as a 37th overall ranked player, so you may be able to get him in the second round, but I don't think he's making it out of the first round. I think he is really talented. And then as far as we go, not only are we now bringing him in for a private visit tomorrow, but we went to Florida's pro day, and again, I feel like that was the main reason we went to that. And then we also had a formal meeting with him at the combine. That's 3 reference points of interest for the Commanders right there. So there's definitely some strong, legitimate interest there. So don't be surprised if we end up taking Osiris Torrance. And then some newly added other guys that are scheduled to visit. TCU guard Steve Avila, who a lot of people are really high on, is visiting the Cowboys. And then he has scheduled visits with the Steelers, the Lions, us, the Commanders, and the Cardinals coming up as well. According to the Draft Network, he's a 64th ranked overall player, so expect him to go maybe late second, early third. We'll see, but you never know. Somebody may reach on that as well. And this is another guy we met with at the combine as well. So those are 2 reference points of interest right there. And the reason we're meeting with all of these interior offensive linemen and bringing them in for visits, going to their pro days, meeting with them at the combine, all of these interior offensive linemen are really important right now because we don't exactly know who's starting at left guard for us right now. I love what I saw from Chris Paul against the Cowboys that last game of the season, but am I just confident that he should be our starting left guard going into the season and that's it? No. And then Ron Rivera said it's just between Chris Paul and Sadiq Charles right now, and that doesn't give me any confidence that that left guard spot is going to be handled properly this upcoming regular season, and Sam Howell doesn't have to run for his life from that direction. He didn't even mention Andrew Norwell in that left guard competition, so that sounds like he's out of it. So who's left? And then even center-wise, I mean, I'm interested in Nick Gates. He's technically a center guard, backup like a Wes Schweitzer type of guy. Wes Schweitzer was more guard than center. Nick Gates is more center than guard. And so they really see him more as a backup center than anything else, not necessarily competing for that starting left guard spot. So that's a center right there, but we brought Tyler Larson back for a really cheap deal. We're still going with this Chase Roulier thing to see if he can stay healthy. He's a top 5 center when he can, but he only plays half a season. Your best ability is your availability, and he hasn't been that. So maybe you want to bring in one of these interior offensive linemen, Osiris Torrance, who we just already talked about a little bit earlier, and Steve Avila, and they could come in and compete for that starting left guard spot immediately, and you could be grooming them to be your starting center of the future. You never know. So interior offensive lineman is very likely within the first 3 rounds of this draft because you could bring one in and possibly fill in the guard spot sooner rather than later, and then you could be working towards that same player becoming your franchise center. We'll see. I mean, there's so many different possibilities, but do not be surprised if we go interior offensive lineman second or even first round because the Commanders clearly view it as a need, and I just broke down exactly why it could end up being a scary need because I love Chris Paul, but we going into the 2023 regular season assuming he's our starting left guard, and the only person he's technically competing with right now is Sadiq Charles, who also can't stay healthy. I'm a little worried. Also, William and Mary tight end Lachlan Pitts will attend the Washington Commanders local pro day thing that they try to do every year, and so far that's the only confirmed name that I have right now. It's technically not a visit. The Commanders will hold a pro day in the DMV area, probably in Virginia, more than likely. And so far, that's the only confirmed name I have right there. So I just wanted to give y'all that. He's a very unknown player. Again, he went to William and Mary. I don't even know what state that's in. Definitely not D1, but you never know, man. Maybe they found a sleeper in a tight end that they could potentially bring in as an undrafted free agent. You never know. But it just goes to show that they are going to invest some capital into tight end at some point. They may not draft one within like the first 5-6 rounds, but 7th round and a drafted free agent, expect a slew of tight ends to be invited to the Commanders team at some point. And then to read off the rest of the visits, you have DeJuan Jones, the right tackle from Ohio State. 3 reference points of interest there as well. That's why a lot of people feel like we'll probably take them in the 1st or 2nd round because we had a formal meeting at the combine, private visit, and pro day as well. Then you also have Darnell Wright, who I love, offensive tackle from Tennessee. Another guy with 3 reference points, the same exact ones. Formal meeting at the combine, private visit, and a pro day. Then you have DeMarvion Overshown, linebacker from Texas. private meeting and a Senior Bowl informal meeting, we still need to address linebacker, in my opinion, and that could be a sleeper that we could potentially get in the third round, who is a super sleeper. Like, do not sleep on Demarion Overshown. If you haven't gone to look at his tape, go do that. Would be a nice get in the third round. So that's another visit. Then you also have interior offensive lineman, again, Alex Forsythe from Oregon. They met with him at the combine, somewhere else informally. Then also a private 30 visit and went to his pro day. That's 4 reference points of interest right there. Then you have another interior offensive lineman. This is like the 4th one just out of these visits alone. Antonio Mafi from UCLA. 2 reference points, East-West Shrine Bowl informal interview and top 30 visits. Then you have Ventrell Miller, linebacker from Florida, private visit and pro day. Center Ricky Stromberg, formal meeting at combine and private visit. Terrell Smith, the cornerback from Minnesota, top 30 visit and pro day visited. And then MJ Anderson, the edge from Iowa State, they had a private dinner with him. Joel Hanickford, the tight end from Michigan, private workout. And then also, lastly, like I already spoke on, Lachlan Pitts, the tight end from William & Mary, gonna show up at Washington's local pro day. I want to get more names so I can update y'all on that as well. And as soon as I do, I will let y'all know who's gonna be there. And then even after it happens, I will let y'all know how everybody looked and things like that, and who we're likely to try to take. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like in this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. Definitely let me know how you feel about all of these visits. Do you feel like this interest in these quarterbacks is real? Do you feel like the interest in these interior offensive linemen is real? Maybe trying to get a linebacker in that sweet spot of 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. We will see. Let me know again about all of that. And of course, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors. Whose names is scrolling on the screen right now. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.